When you talk about youth, the biggest challenge and the need is to create employment. So we need jobs and we need entrepreneurs. Either you create jobs or create entrepreneurs. So you create entrepreneurs, you create jobs around that. So this is going to be the primary objective of the youth ministry, and that is going to be a target. We will work with other organizations such as BOI, Trade Ministry, then industrial ministry, agriculture ministry. We work with them together to create jobs, and we can mobilize youth. We can do the training programs. We can get them trained. Those are the things that the youth ministry can do. But we need to have a proper guided campaign through the youth ministry to get these boys back on track. We need to create Active Nation. So Active Nation is being part of sports, then being part of the economic activity in the country. So this is going to be the biggest challenge, and this is going to be our number one target as youth ministry, to create jobs, get them back on work. I must say the youth and sport ministry is not an isolated ministry. So I think what has gone wrong in the past is trying to work in isolation. Because as I said, school sector, a sportsman or a girl or a boy is going to school and getting into sport until he's 20 or he or she is 20, he is with the education ministry. So if she goes to uni or then still they are with the education ministry. Then rest is with the provincial sector, right? Then at the national level only they come to the sports ministry, right? That is very limited. So we have to communicate and coordinate with these two provinces and these two departments, education and provincial sector, which is happening right now very well. I must thank Professor Piris, GL Piris, for taking the initiative. Then we are looking at the youth side of it. So we need vocational training, we need skill development, we need job creation. So all those things we have to work together with the relevant line ministries. So that's what we have started doing ever since we took office. We need to communicate, work together, come to an understanding with other relevant organizations to make it a proper ministry. Because I think, my personal opinion, what youth and sport has gone wrong in the past is trying to work on isolation, and we have put more priority for entertainment than actual guidance. So youth ministry doesn't have to be an organization that do musical shows, events. We can do that. That is part of youth. But we need to guide these boys. We need to guide the boys, this Sri Lankan younger generation, to how to build up their career, how to build their career, what career path they should take, what educational qualifications they required, and what are the opportunities locally and globally, how to reach that. Those are the primary objectives of the youth ministry. Along on that line, as side events, you can have cultural, social, sporting, and other events. Even that we have other ministries to work with, like cultural ministry. Then we have the sports ministry. Then we have entrepreneurship. Under the sports ministry, youth, we have a part of entrepreneurship as well. And we have other organizations such as private media companies are doing a lot of reality shows and entertainment events. We can partner with them, help them, guide them. And there are a lot of other organizations who are doing this kind of stuff. This is what we are looking at. Intercorporational, like interdepartment communication and cross-functional activities. Cross-functional ministerial implementation is key for if you really want to see youth and sport moving forward. Youth doesn't have politics. They do vote. They have to vote, but they need to know why they're voting. They shouldn't vote because their father voted for green or red or blue. They should not. They doesn't have to follow that. They have to get involved in active politics by having proper knowledge of politics and political policy. That's what I have told my chairman of Youth Council. Youth Parliament. Youth Parliament has to be something different from what you see in the real parliament. The behavior have to change, the culture has to change. Because if you give the same model to the youth parliament, you will produce the same politician. You won't have anything new. I'm not saying the current politicians are bad. We have been projected badly, right? We have been looked up badly because, of course, because one or two people, how they behave. It's a universal problem. It's not a global problem. So if you compare certain countries and their head of states and say all the head of states are like that, it's not fair. We do have education politicians in Sri Lanka, but our cultures are different. Our policies are different. So we need to educate youngsters about political policies. So they should do politics. They must vote. Voting is their right. And if they don't vote, I believe personally, if I don't vote, I don't have right to criticize because I'm not part of the procedure. I'm not the part of the system, right? So they need to vote, but we need to educate them on what is politics. How they should, why they should vote, and how. what policies they should follow. And I'm sure the younger generation are more politically savvy than the older generation in the modern context. But if you look at the older generation, like my father and his generation, they are more politically savvy with policies. And because if you look at even today, if you look at Honorable Vasudeva Nanayakkara, how they speak in Parliament, certain language issues maybe some people might criticize, but if you actually look at the substance they make sense. They have policies, but they believe in that. It might not suit now. It might not go along with the current needs of the youth or the demand of the people, but they stick by their policies no matter what. But you see modern politicians who keep on crossing over, who keep on taking wrong decisions, who keep on criticizing personally, who try to get involved with other people's personal businesses, try to criticize their families, kids. So that has to stop. If that doesn't stop, no young educated person will come into politics, especially women, especially female politicians will never be able to survive with this kind of criticism. I mean, who wants to come into politics and get a bad name for doing nothing, right? You come with the intention of doing something good, and from the time you step into politics, you'll be criticized, right? So that has to stop. So that has to stop, at least with our generation. That political culture has to stop. So for that, I believe we need to have more proper guidance among the youngsters about the needs of the politician. See, we have two things to do. One is to identify what are the worst affected areas as a result of COVID. But it happened from East attacks. We should not forget that.
Yeah.
Like if you look at tourism, corporate sector got affected starting from East attacks. So now what we're doing from our ministry is to do a proper study as to what are the areas that has been affected from COVID and East attacks, and what areas has the most number of job cuts, right? And then what are the new areas that has opened up as a result of COVID-19. So we have to get our youth back on track on those new normals, new departments, new areas that has come out. So we are actually on the verge of doing the study now. So we have a department called Foreign Employment and Manpower, so which is specially established 10 or 15 years ago for these kind of activities, for research. So this is something that we need to do, and then educate youth on the new opportunities they have, because every disaster will have some good opportunity. So we need to utilize it. We can't just watch. That's what I said, even LPL. We can't watch. We can't just stay here and say, listen, we can't do anything. Let's go inside your house and lock your door. It's world is not that anymore. So we need to think new, out of the box, and go for new opportunities. Look at new markets and look for a manufacturing market. So Sri Lanka has always been a service-oriented market. So now time has given us a lesson to rethink about our entire economic dimensions, and not only think of service-oriented but also think of manufacturing, at least for the local consumption. Then we can go for the foreign consumption or exports. So these are the new things that we have to look at. And I'm sure a lot of corporates are struggling, and SMEs are struggling badly. I met a lot of SMEs in Vavuniya, Kilinochchi, Mana, Jaffna, Puttalam, even in my constituency in Hambantota. So they are badly affected. And also we have to look at a mechanism to give them access for funding. Because these people, SMEs, cannot access banks. That's the truth. That's the reality. That's the truth. With the central bank regulations and banking regulations, most of these SMEs cannot even get a loan today. So we need to find alternatives for this. So I have proposed a youth trust fund to be established under the public trustee with the youth ministry, and get the corporates also involved in it. So they can go and fund new ideas, new ventures as a seed capital fund, as a venture capital or seed fund. So these are the things that we have to look at in the new normal. Otherwise, if you try to work around SMEs with the current banking system, it's not going to work. No, they won't be left out. It's just the focus. Because I think you need to have focus. You need to focus on certain areas. The markets have changed. The labor market has changed. The economics have changed. The dimension, the world maritime industry has changed. The aviation industry has changed. So one mistake Sri Lanka did, we do believe in free education. We must maintain free education. But at the same time, we have to upgrade. We can't teach for sake of teaching kids. We can't give them a degree for sake of giving them a degree, right? We have to educate them with the modern demands, and we have to go with the current trend in the world to create employment. So that's what President Gotabaya Rajapaksa meant by saying, we have to concentrate on different areas. Because there is no point you giving a degree just because you want to give a degree. That degree has to give you employment end of the day. It's not a certificate that you're going to show your grandchildren. Maybe it was 20, 30 years ago. So you can tell your grandchildren, I have a degree. But today, it's a qualification to get employed, right? It's the end of the day, they all depend on your paycheck. So you need to give them education where they can get a good paycheck. So that's what President Rajapaksa meant, and that's what we want to do. And that's what we want to expand vocational training, skill development, NITA, VT has to be expanded. And if you look at Europe, if you look at even India, their curriculums change every quarter of a year. So they look at the world market, they look at the world job demands, and they change their curriculum. But here we wait for 7 years to change the curriculum. So it's not going to help these kids, coming from rural area. We say free, but most of those people go for tuition. They spend millions of rupees to get educated. Government gives it free, but they go for universities. They go for tuition classes. So they get paid. They have to pay for tuition classes. So even though you give free education, when you look at it, it's not free. You have a huge cost. So parents are bearing that, expecting their children will get proper employment. So we need to educate them with something they can get employed somewhere.
Right.
So all these streams were very good 20 years ago, because that only option people had was to get into the government sector, become a clerk, become a PN, or become a driver. There were one point where you need a politician to get a driving license. Today you don't need a politician to get a driving license. Yeah. And that's not the job of a politician.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So things are changing. So if the dimensions are changing worldwide, we cannot hold our youth, tell them, listen, you have no other option, you do this, become a laborer, or you do this, become a PN. No. You have to give them more option and opportunity. Youth is youth. All youth is not the same, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to attract all kind of youth,
Yeah.
you need to appoint people from different sectors.
Right.
And you do respect for all these people. They have their own base, their own personality. They address different segments in life. You can't look at a guy and say, listen, you have long hair, you have a tattoo, you have a earring, ear piercing. You wear trousers which are torn. You wear t-shirts and you're not a youth. You can't say that. That is the modern youth, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have a tattoo, but I know a lot of people who have tattoos. But you can't. 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when you have a tattoo, you call a IRC card, right? Because that's how you identify when you go to prison. If you have a tattoo, you put it on paper. So only people who went to prison had tattoos at that time, I believe. But today is a fashion. So you're having long hair, earring, ear piercing, or whatever you call it, those are fashions, We have to move along with the modern society. So they have been appointed for different tasks. So if you look at both of them, they're very strong on social media and they're very tech savvy. So we have about 20 youth members in the board, and all of them are volunteers. They don't get paid. They only get paid 6,000 rupees for a board sitting, I think. But they can contribute a lot to the modern thinking youth. So their task is that, and they are doing very well. They have done a couple of programs, and if you look at programs like mental health awareness campaign is done by Tehani, and Iraj is doing a lot of things to bring the youth, talented youth, back to the mainstream and introduce them to investors and expertise in their respective industries. So they are doing their contribution. But unfortunately, some people see it in a very different angle, which is very wrong. You can't judge because she's a girl. You can't judge because Namal appointed a girl to a board who is a singer. You can't judge people based on their profession. It has to stop. You can't judge because someone is a music producer. You can't say that music producer cannot be on a board. You have to give them opportunity to see what they can contribute. And I'm sure all of these people, all these youth, they do contribute in a very, very, very strong manner, especially the boards that we have appointed. And I must also talk about this drug rehabilitation we are going to do next year. So we believe the drug rehabilitation is one main topics or projects that we are going to concentrate next year. As you know, we have 500,000 plus drug addicts in this country, and most of them are youth. And if each individual use 1 gram of heroin, we're talking tons of heroin coming into the country annually, and that currency outflow is huge. That's talking about the economic side, but at the same time you are talking of a society that is going into bad to us. So we need to get these kids out of it, but putting them in jail is not going to be the answer. So what we're looking at, we spoke to the Honorable Justice Minister Ali Sabri also to amend the Penal Code Section 54 and allow judges to send them for rehabilitation straight away from courts. So in that way, Youth Ministry, Rehabilitation Ministry and the Defence Ministry can work on a rehabilitation program, give them soft skills, skill development, and employ them through that. And I even spoke to certain groups that have been badly criticized in the north. I don't agree with what they do, but I do believe they need a second chance. The same way LTT cadres were given a second chance. These kids should be given a second chance. So we're looking at rehabilitating them and putting them to the mainstream with proper skill development and infrastructure, skill development and knowledge to live a normal life, because those kids deserve a second chance.